So over the years of watching Countryball content on YouTube, there has been something that has been argued, especially ever since the rise of Mrs. Spherical, that being PolandBall rules. As many people have expressed their hatred for certain channels because of them breaking said rules, while others have came in defense by saying that these rules don't actually matter and people can make Countryballs whatever they want. However, is that true? And why do people have such hatred for channels that don't follow these certain rules? Well, that's what I'll be discussing in today's video, but before we begin, please like and subscribe, and if you want, join membership to support me more on the channel. So, let's start. Now, what are PolandBall rules? Well, these are rules that show you how to draw Countryballs in certain ways. They're not super strict, but they're strict enough to the point where many people have broken these rules in the past. Some examples of the following rules include having Poland's flag flipped upside down, drawing Countryballs like Kazakhstan, Israel, and Singapore in certain shapes, and not drawing black lines inside Countryballs. However, some of the most famous examples of these rules are what facial features should be added on the Countryballs. According to PolandBall rules, a Countryball should consist of a ball and 2 eyes that have no pupils, and that's it. No mouth, no hands, nothing. Now these rules have existed since the earliest days of PolandBall as the way to keep the webcomic's identity unique from other webcomics at the time. That's what most of the community on YouTube has followed over the years, as well as the PolandBall subreddit, which has almost 700,000 members and only allows comments to be uploaded if they follow these rules. However, things would change in August of 2021 when a new Countryball channel was created, that being Mrs. Spherical, who would change Countryballs forever. Eventually they would start to gain traction and soon become one of the fastest Countryball channels in the community, hitting 100,000 subscribers in the span of a few months. And by April of next year, they would have already been the second most subscribed Countryball channel, and then much later, the first Countryball channel to hit 1 million subscribers in less than a year. After that, in September, they would pass DGP Mumbo to become the most subscribed Countryball channel. However, Mrs. Spherical received lots of hate in the community. Or maybe you did see the high quality that they put into their videos, especially compared to most other Countryball channels. At the time, many people had pointed out that he broke many Countryball rules. Now, they didn't break all the PolandBall rules, like having PolandBall's flag be upside down for some of the videos. I say some because others it's not. They still broke other rules, like the Countryball's having hands, facial hair, and the one thing that everyone talks about, mouths. Now, if it was just Mrs. Spherical that rose to the top and no other major channels that broke these rules, then this situation probably wouldn't be as serious as it is now. But that's not the reality you live in, as in May of 2022, Mrs. Spherical would launch PolandBalls, which also got similar hate because of them having mouths on the characters. Things would only continue during late 2022 as another mouth channel would begin to rise, that being Planetball, who and their many channels will take over the Countryball community, posting content that is just for an infant audience. More channels would eventually be created to have mouths. Duco Studio, Country Balloons, Ball, and Big Ball would all post similar background content, different from the Countryball channels that dominated in the past. And now, many people would say that Countryball channels that break Countryball rules are bad, even if the content they post isn't too bad. And it's not just Countryballs, as the Planetball community has an even greater hatred for these channels that break these rules, likely because the effect they had on the community is much greater than what happened in the Countryball community. You see, when Mrs. Spherical rose to the top and was able to dominate and change the Countryball community, there were still Countryball channels that followed most PolandBall rules that rose around the same time, like PWA, who got popular along with Mrs. Spherical during late 2021 and early 2022. Or even while Planetballs was on the rise, channels like Angel, Mr. Countryballs, and Countryball España, who didn't have mouths on the Countryballs, still rose to extreme heights, even farther than PWA did. Also, the Countryball community already had decently launched creators like Kaliningrad General and Art Animations that had hundreds of thousands of subscribers by the time Mrs. Spherical rose, as well as DGP Mundo nearing 1 million subscribers. So yes, the Countryball community was altered significantly. There are still many large Countryball channels that are still growing and follow these rules. However, Planetballs are a different story, because by the time Soulballs posted their first video, the only Planetball channel that was decently large was Dodge Pro, now called AstroCat, who had around 60,000 subscribers at the time, which is impressive, but much smaller than the large Countryball channels that existed by the time Mrs. Spherical launched. Also, Soulballs was able to go even faster than Mrs. Spherical because of the shout they had from the same channel, which allowed them to hit 100,000 subscribers in the span of a week after posting their first video, while Mrs. Spherical took a few months to achieve that. And because copycats like Spaceballs were trying to copy their success in the Planetball community while also able to become super successful, the community was completely changed, as its core community was flooded by many of these newcomers. That's also why when searching for Countryball content, you would be able to find Countryball channels that follow these PolandBall rules, while Planetballs, almost all channels that you see are mouthed Planetballs. That's one of the reasons why they're so hated, as many people say that because they add mouths to Countryballs and Planetballs, that their community is ruined as it's completely changed of what it was years ago. But that's not really the truth, well at least for Countryballs it isn't. You see, while it is true that Mrs. Spherical popularized the idea of putting mouths on Countryballs with mouths have existed as far back as 2013, when channels like Meet Dan and now deleted the Great Random channel were putting mouths on the Countryballs. And this continued during the mid and late 2010s, and even during the COVID years, as channels like Art Animations used mouths for some of their videos, and No Idea Animation, a YouTuber that put mouths on the Countryballs and was able to grow super fast, hitting 100,000 subscribers 1 year after the channel was created, and peaked as the second most subscribed Countryball channel and the most subscribed English-speaking Countryball channel in 2021. In fact, when looking at Avo Klamath's channel, currently of Solarballs, there's a video talking about how how Mrs. Vehicle was created, and when he was interviewing the creator of Mrs. Vehicle, he stated that No Idea Animation was the inspiration for the channel.
So I saw that No Idea Animation, which was the kind of original person who took PolandBall into Countryballs as a format, he was doing videos, and I thought, hey, that's really cool, and I think we could do something similar, and took inspiration from that, and then got started by finding a team to build this channel into something really awesome, and that's how Mrs. Vehicle started.
And it wasn't like these channels didn't get any hate for putting Mouthed Countryballs. I remember there was some people saying how they really don't like No Idea Animation because of the fact that he broke PolandBall rules. However, he was still liked by the majority of the community because of his humor that he brought into his videos. However, there weren't any large Planetball channels that used Mouthed on their characters that existed before Mrs. Vehicle, so this counter argument really doesn't apply to them. But if people are okay with Countryballs having Mouthed before, why is it suddenly becoming a big deal? I think the next reason could be because of what content is uploaded on Countryball channels that use Mouthed. Here's every Countryball and Planetball channel that has over 300,000 subscribers and uses Mouthed on their characters, excluding dub channels: No Idea Animation, Mrs. Vehicle, Solar Balls, State Balls, Space Balls, Country Z, State Ball Shorts, Country Balloon Animations, Big Ball, Ultra Space Balls, Duco Studio, History Balls, and Solar Spheres. Out of these channels, only 3 actually make content that's entertaining and high quality, and these 3 just so happen to be the oldest of the group because these were the 3 channels that grew in a community where the content was still relatively normal. However, when the next channel to be created, Space Balls, and its Russian dub launched, it started to create a trend of brain rot slop specifically for a child audience, which is what the rest of these channels upload, well except for Solar Spheres, as I found the content super funny and different from the rest of these channels. Even if the content is also brain rot at the end of the day, that's also a reason why there's lots of hate from channels that use Mouthed on Countryballs, because most of the major channels that use them are just bad. So it goes back to the question I asked at the beginning of the video: do PolandBall rules matter? Well, in my opinion, no. You see, but I do agree that most channels that break these rules are bad, and I do prefer Countryballs that are more aligned with these rules. That doesn't mean breaking these PolandBall rules automatically makes you a bad Countryball channel. People can do whatever they want, and they shouldn't be judged just because they're not following certain types of rules. But it doesn't mean the people that are against not following PolandBall rules don't have a justifiable reason for their thoughts. I do want you to imagine this. Imagine you're a part of a small club, community, or something. It has certain rules that people follow in order to keep the community special, and you've been a part of that thing for years, or even decades. Then suddenly, in the span of a few months, that community or club suddenly gets a huge boost in popularity, and many of these people that are joining aren't aware of the rules that have been set in place, so they start breaking them and doing whatever they want. About a year later, there have been massive changes to that community or club that you grew up in. The thing that made you fall in love with it in the first place is just gone, and it's been oversaturated by newcomers that have no idea what this community is even about. I think a real world example of this is the city of Nashville. Nashville is currently the capital and largest city of Tennessee. Nashville had a rich culture and country music, which made many people fall in love with the city, and it gave a small city music charm, something that they loved. However, during the 1960s, due to the city's booming economy, music scene, and diverse culture, the city started to explode in population. However, while it was impressive, it did start to have changes on what made the city special. It only got worse as the city entered another population boom during the 2000s. Now, Nashville went from this small country music city to this massive tourist city that gets millions of tourists per year. In fact, in 2023 alone, they had almost 17 million tourists, more than double the population of the entire state of Tennessee. However, many people resent this new reality, as the streets they loved walking on in the past are now packed with tourists like Broadway, where it's impossible to move around freely. This has also caused the city to become quite expensive to live in, and because of that, the city has basically lost its charm, as it's now been commercialized by the outside world. That's exactly what the Countryball community feels right now, something they loved and had rules and guidelines placed in it to make them special, but were lost when the community started to experience a boom in popularity, which led to the Countryballs to change in order to fit a more commercialized look to maximize views and profits, due to the many content farms that joined YouTube at the time. However, that doesn't mean it's all bad. I still think the intention of Mrs. Vehicle and Soul Balls are great, and there are still good Planetball and Countryball channels that are still active to this day, like Anjob, Astrocat, PolandBall Official, and PWA. And that's just the lost channels. There are probably hundreds of underrated Countryball channels out there that make pretty good content. Also, you don't need to follow Countryball rules to be good. Just make good content like Mrs. Vehicle and No Idea Animation, and that's enough. Even Countryball channels that get lots of praise don't follow these rules. For example, Anjob adds hands to these Countryballs. That's the same with Countryball España and Mr. Countryballs. Even Fags, before the allegations came out which showed how disgusting of a human being he is, was super well respected, and yet used hands and eyebrows on his Countryballs. So at the end of the day, PolandBall rules don't matter, but there's also nothing wrong with people wanting to follow these rules. You just have to make good content and respect the other people's opinions, which goes to both sides of the argument. Thanks for watching this video. Please like and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll see you guys later.